Breaking news, Steelers Nation. It's official. After months of speculation, rumors, and endless debate, Aaron Rodgers is signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah, you heard that right. The four-time NFL MVP is headed to the Steel City, and we are going to break it down for you here this afternoon on Oneberg. We don't know yet if Aaron Rodgers is moving into Mount Washington or maybe setting up a tent in Shenley Park for a darkness retreat. But what we do know is this: the AFC North just became the Wild, Wild West. Stick around. We're going to be breaking everything down here in the next 20 minutes or so. Brian Carruthers, our Yinzer in Chief, should be joining us as well from the road to talk a little bit more about Aaron Rodgers signing this afternoon with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not signing this afternoon, but telling the Steelers that he will sign a contract next week and report to the Steelers facility and their mandatory minicamp, which is just about a week away. And this has been something that's been on the Steelers' radar for several weeks, months. Rumors that Rodgers was going to sign before training camp in July at Latrobe. And it came all the way this afternoon for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers to, it sounds like, to finally come to an agreement. Multiple media sources nationally and locally reporting this news here this afternoon that Rodgers has told the Steelers that he will sign a one-year deal next week and report to the Steelers before their mandatory minicamp, which will be on June 10th. Again, just about a week away on Tuesday, June 10th next week. Steelers have mandatory minicamp on Tuesday the 10th, Wednesday the 11th, and Thursday the 12th of next week. And again, a lot of speculation and a lot of rumors were out and about the last few weeks that this most likely was the timing. If Aaron Rodgers was going to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers, it would be right now, right before the start of minicamp. The Steelers have had 3 straight weeks of volunteering OTAs, the optional training sessions that they do have for players. They don't have to attend. It's not mandatory. Most do attend those. And this is the third and final week for that as they roll into minicamp next week. And then they'll have a few weeks to about a month off before they have to report to Latrobe at St. Vincent for Steeler training camp, which those dates and times were just announced here in the last day as well. And again, our breaking news here on Oneberg, you probably have already seen it. Here in the last hour, Aaron Rodgers informing the Pittsburgh Steelers that he will sign a one-year deal next week. He will fly to Pittsburgh, sign that deal, and then reportedly report to the Steelers minicamp sessions. So we are curious to see what Steeler Nation does think about this move with Aaron Rodgers. What does it do for the upcoming season? Rodgers is a polarizing figure off the field. A lot of folks question a lot of what he does and what he can't do throughout this past season. So, again, the Steelers going through this, doing their due diligence here in the offseason and trying to, get things in order as far as Aaron Rodgers signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, again, there was a lot of speculation whether this was going to happen or not here in this past week or months leading up to this situation, if the Steelers were going to sign throughout. And with Rodgers, again, polarizing figure on and off the field. On the field, 4-time MVP, led the Packers to a Super Bowl title. Didn't work out too well with the Jets the last couple years. But for this offseason with Aaron Rodgers, he has become what they look to be possibly a 1-year, maybe 2-year solution. He's going to sign a 1-year deal, but who knows when the Steelers try to see what they can do with this quarterback position. And with the Pittsburgh Steelers, when you look at, they got Will Howard in the draft this past year. They signed back Mason Rudolph, and then at the same time, they have Skylar Thompson on the roster. He was actually the first quarterback to sign this past offseason, and then Mason Rudolph returns. And then they draft Will Howard. And there was talk, of course, that they were going to bring a 4th quarterback in. And with that quarterback, it is Aaron Rodgers signing the veteran. It appears to be for next week. So what does this do for Mason Rudolph, right? He's been working out with the team the last couple months since he signed via free agency at the beginning of free agency period. It looked like Rodgers was going to be the guy that was going to come on and be potentially the Steelers starter, fill that gap until they found their next quarterback, whether it was Will Howard, or they draft somebody next year. But now it appears that Aaron Rodgers will come in. It'll be interesting to see QB1, you would think would be Aaron Rodgers, but will they open this up and have Rodgers compete with Mason Rudolph in training camp? Probably not. I would think that Rodgers will be the one to come on and pick this up and become the Steelers' instant starter. Not give Mason Rudolph an opportunity to possibly beat him out in training camp. It's hard to think that Rodgers would be beat out by anyone, including Mason Rudolph, but you never know. So it will be interesting to see what the Steelers do there this upcoming training camp in July at Latrobe, which again is only a little bit over a month away, with Aaron Rodgers now appears to be signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers to be that fourth quarterback in camp. We want to know what you have to say. Lots of comments coming in here on Oneberg, including our YouTube channel as well here on Oneberg Facebook. And also we'll play this back on Spotify a little bit longer. Want to definitely know what Steeler Nation thinks about the Pittsburgh Steelers reportedly. Again, national media and local media reporting just in the last hour or two that Aaron Rodgers has informed the Pittsburgh Steelers that he will sign a one-year deal with the Black and Gold next week and report to Steelers minicamp and become the Steelers' fourth quarterback. We want to bring in our Yinzer in Chief now, Brian Carruthers, who's joining us via the road to talk about this breaking news. Brian, for weeks and months, it was talked about with Aaron Rodgers, whether he was going to possibly sign with the Steelers, and now reportedly that will take place next week.
Yeah, personally speaking, I hate it. I hate Aaron Rodgers. I never have been a fan. I think he's lackadaisical. The passion of the Steeler fan base does not match his passion for the game of football. And I think it's an absolutely terrible choice to put Rodgers together with Steeler Nation. However, we're a desperate nation right now. I heard your opening monologue, Ed. We're a desperate nation to even consider.
Oh, we lost Brian again. Brian's reporting in on the road. We'll try to get him back here on the breaking news here on Oneberg in just a little bit. I know he's experienced some technical difficulties. Might be the thunderstorms that are in the area here in the Pittsburgh area that he has bounced off here a couple of times. We're going to get him back on to talk a little bit more about Aaron Rodgers reportedly signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers next week and reporting to the Steelers minicamp. Brian, I think we got you back on here. We're going to sneak you back on to get some more thoughts from you here on the breaking news. And Brian is still blank, so we're going to let him reconnect and try to get back on here in a second. Again, News Nation, Steeler Nation, breaking this news here just within the last couple hours that Rodgers is going to become the fourth quarterback. And again, this was pretty much projected to happen. A lot of folks in and around the Steelers organization, especially when team owner Art Rooney II a couple months ago came out and felt pretty confident that they'd get this deal done. And then anyone in and around that covers this team that we've had on our podcast, the Troopcast, the last few weeks, Ray Fittipaldo, Rich Walsh last week with KDK TV, all of those guys, over the last month or two reporting and talking to us that they really felt strong that Aaron Rodgers would sign, and most likely this would be the timing, right before the Steelers minicamp next week or leading up to training camp next month. I think you get Rodgers in here, though, to start working with the offensive players next week in that 3-day mandatory minicamp. And then, you report to training camp the following month. At least he'll have a little bit of familiarity with some of the players and the organization and the playbook, most importantly, before he gets underway during the preseason upcoming. When you start thinking about Ben Roethlisberger retiring several years ago and the quarterbacks that have come through since, this list is growing. And even though Rodgers, a 4-time MVP, is signing with the Steelers, it still does not solve the Steelers' long-term quarterback issue that they have and who will be that quarterback. Maybe it's Will Howard. Maybe they haven't seen him yet. Maybe they draft him. But Rodgers is not a long-term solution. He's a very short-term solution. And Brian, we got you back on. The internet gods are working with us now.
Yes. Hi, Ed. Good afternoon.
So you were saying before you bounced off that you're not a fan of this move with Aaron Rodgers.
No, I personally hate it. Professionally speaking, it's going to give us a lot of great material here on Oneberg to talk about. But personally, I hate it. Rodgers' lackadaisical attitude does not match the passion of the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was a common complaint in Green Bay. He's not committed. He's not all in. He's an egomaniac. And while, yes, George Pickens and all these guys are as well, Rodgers is uniquely aloof, and I think just a big miss for Steeler Nation. But we are a desperate nation. We're so desperate that we actually think Mason Rudolph's a starting.
Yeah, Brian, and like I was saying right before you came back on, this has not solved the Steelers' long-term solution at the quarterback position. Since Ben has retired, think about all the different quarterbacks we've had in here. Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, now Mason Rudolph Part 2, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and now you add Aaron Rodgers to that list. It's quite remarkable that we're picking up scraps, as some would say, at the end of their careers. I mean, let's face it, Rodgers, another year left, probably not much more than that, maybe another season, depending on how things go if he stays healthy. But this still does not solve their long-term solution. A lot of people are excited about Will Howard out of Ohio State, but he has yet to take a NFL snap at all, so you can't really judge that yet. Maybe there's a draft pick next year waiting for them, but one of the questions I asked Rich Walsh last week when we had him on the Troopcast from KDKA was, if you sign Aaron Rodgers, which it looks like they're going to, how many more wins does that get you that Mason Rudolph wouldn't have gotten you? I was under the impression Rudolph probably gets you to 9 or 10 wins. I think Rodgers gets you to the same amount. And we lost Brian. He didn't like my question. We lost him again. We'll see if we can get him back one more time before we wrap things up for this breaking news here on Oneberg. But that's the question that I posed to Rich last week, and him and I talked about it. And, maybe Rodgers gets you another win, maybe two. Not sure. I think with or without Aaron Rodgers, the roster, the way it was set up so far, unfortunately for Steeler Nation, is looking again once like that 9 to 10 win window and another playoff exit. I mean, we haven't won a playoff game here in Pittsburgh since 2016. That should be the goal of this team and the franchise right now, is to get over that hump and get to that next playoff victory. Does the guy on the opposite side of my screen get you that playoff victory this upcoming season? We will have to wait and see. They got DK Metcalf. That's huge. One of the best receivers in the game. They now have a veteran Super Bowl winning quarterback to throw him that football if he stays healthy. You got Jaylen Warren at the running back position, who has shown that he can definitely handle a starting position, again, if he stays healthy. A lot of ifs with his health, but that has a lot to do with whether the Steelers or any NFL team can be successful or not. The offensive line has been rebuilt in recent years with Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu at the tackle position, Zach Frazier at the center position. So the pieces are starting to come into play, but will they be enough to get them over that playoff drought hump, again, that we have now seen going on 9 years? It will remain to be seen. But Aaron Rodgers is going to be part of that mix. Again, the breaking news nationally and locally being reported here just in the last couple hours. Aaron Rodgers reportedly telling the Steelers that he will report next week to the Steelers facilities and sign a 1-year contract and report to the Steelers mandatory minicamp next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, which is the final step before training camp in Latrobe, which was just announced yesterday, the days and times for training camp for 2025 at St. Vincent College in Latrobe the end of July. That will be starting, so make sure you check that out if you're interested in going up and seeing Aaron Rodgers and the other players. The last question we will leave you with here this afternoon with this breaking news is, who plays the other wide receiver position for the Pittsburgh Steelers? That's the big other question for Aaron Rodgers right now and the Steelers offense. You have DK Metcalf, but you traded George Pickens. You got Calvin Austin at the other wide receiver position going into his third year now with the black and gold, but they still lack that big number 2 receiver. It was an issue last year. George Pickens didn't have that number 2 receiver. He got double teamed a lot throughout the season. A lot of other frustration things happened with George Pickens too. He's now gone. You were hoping for maybe a Metcalf Pickens duo at that wide receiver position. going into this season, but that will not happen. Pickens has been traded. So is there one more move to be made for the Pittsburgh Steelers before training camp next month? And does it entail a second wide receiver in this offense? I hope so. I think they need it. I think DK Metcalf can be a phenomenal, great number one receiver for this team, but they need somebody else on that opposite side. I think when you look at this roster right now, they signed Robert Woods via free agency. He's a veteran wide receiver. You have Calvin Austin. There's a handful of other players in there as well, but they're more special team type players. I think they still got to go out and get another wide receiver in that room to go along with DK Metcalf in this offense. We will have to wait and see. Comments, lots of them coming in here on Oneberg, and we will make sure we get those posted here on our site as the evening continues. But again, definitely want to see what everybody thinks about the Pittsburgh Steelers reportedly going to sign Aaron Rodgers officially next week. I see some comments coming in here about some people love it, some people hate it. Again, as Brian was saying, Aaron Rodgers is a polarizing player, right? Especially off the field. So some folks in Steeler Nation will applaud this and be excited that a four-time MVP and Super Bowl winner will be guiding the Steelers offense this upcoming season. Others say no. They'd rather see Mason Rudolph or even rookie Will Howard see what he can do here during the training camp and see what he can do at the quarterback position. Make sure you keep it logged on here to Oneberg all week long and all weekend long about this breaking news with Aaron Rodgers reportedly signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers next week. We definitely want to get your thoughts, so make sure you comment. Let us know what you think about this signing, but keep it logged on here to Oneberg, to our Facebook channel, our YouTube channel, and make sure you listen to our Spotify channel as well. We'll have the Troopcast up for you from last night. I had a chance to talk to some WPIL high school football coaches this past week, so make sure you check that out. And we're going to have Lanny Fateri from the Pittsburgh Pirates, formerly the Pittsburgh Pirates, retired now, the voice of the Pirates, Lanny Fateri. He will be on the Troopcast next week right here on Oneberg, so make sure you check that out. But again, our breaking news, Aaron Rodgers reportedly signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers here next week and reporting to minicamp. So make sure you stay logged on here to Oneberg for more about Aaron Rodgers becoming a Pittsburgh Steeler. There you go. There he is with Mike Tomlin a few years ago, and he is soon to be in the black and gold. Have a great night, everyone. We'll talk to you soon right here on Oneberg.